This day and this moment are a tribute to an experience that has bonded all of us to a span of time that completely alters and redefines so much of our lives when we didn't even know we needed that metamorphosis. We only have one life, but not only one chance, and we are all given a new chance every day that we are lucky enough to breathe in and out and to keep going in our quest to do the best we possibly can in these moments of our lives and at this time. I'm now going to quote Faith Aiken, who is a Peace Corps volunteer who just weeks ago left Thailand. She wrote a beautiful blog about Peace Corps, what it really means, and she said something that I just loved. She said, Peace Corps gives us a chance to shuffle the deck of our lives. And now let me share with you words about an amazing person who shuffled the deck of his life in a big way. That is Dr. Surin. My friend Dr. Surin Pitsuwan of Thailand was born in the southern province of Nakhon Si Thammarat. There he, by chance, became the student of Phyllis and David Johnson, who were Peace Corps volunteers. As they visited a leper colony together by bicycle, he began to understand the ways Westerners thought, and they quickly realized how special he was even then, and they saw him as a potential agent of change in his community. The Johnsons, whom he will comment upon himself, assisted him by applying for an AFS exchange student program to study in the United States. He was chosen to go, and he studied at the Rushford Public High School in Rushford, Minnesota, even though he told the AFS interviewer that he really wanted to go to California or Florida, please. He had a great year there and personally embodied what Emily Lou Harris sang about this morning. Like you all, he woke up on a different shore. That was Dr. Surin. When he returned to Thailand in the summer of 1968, I had the pleasure of meeting him. He was 19 and I was 25, and I thought I was his mom or something. I had 2 small children, and I was being a wife, and he was being a student. But now I'm happy to say that even though I'm a lot older than him, he's starting to catch up. He was a favorite among his AFS Thai friends, and they eventually began to call him the man with wings, and have said throughout his career that he never acts like a big shot. That's Dr. Surin. In December of 1968, he came with his Thai AFS friends to my house in Bangkok. They all wore scarves and mittens and sang Christmas carols with my family, even though it was 90 degrees outside. From that day until now, we have been friends. 18 years later, when I became Peace Corps country director in Thailand, I had the pleasure of working daily with his wonderful sister, Heidi. She was a great Peace Corps trainer, very beloved. After his AFS year, Dr. Surin spent 2 years at Thammasat University in Bangkok, and he later graduated from Claremont Men's College in California with highest honors. He followed that with an MA and a PhD from Harvard University. That is Dr. Surin. He also spent 1.5 years studying Arabic and doing research at the American University in Cairo. That is Dr. Surin. I can't get my cards apart here. Mark Twain once said, years from now you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did. So sail away from the safe harbor. And that was Dr. Surin. Kevin Quigley, the current CD in Peace Corps Thailand, told me that he feels that Dr. Surin is the most impressive Thai person of his generation. And Kevin knows a lot of Thai people. That's an impressive thing in itself. Professionally, Dr. Surin was a newspaper columnist for 2 English language newspapers early in his career. He later taught university for many years in Bangkok and left that post for a period of time to teach at the American University in Washington, D.C. As Henry David Thoreau once said, it's so important to have a broad margin to life. That is Dr. Surin. He is also married to his beautiful wife, Alicia, I think it is Alicia, and they have 3 sons. He then went on to be a member of the Thai Parliament for many years from his province, Nakhon Si Thammarat. And in 1997, he became the Thai Minister of Foreign Affairs. As Robert Burns put it, the purpose of life is a life of purpose, and that was Dr. Surin. After his service as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Surin served for several years as the Secretary General of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, a highly prestigious post which is very similar to the European Union or something, except it's for Southeast Asia, dealing in many important economic and other cultural affairs of that region. In spite of his lofty position, he has on many occasions given of his precious time to speak to Peace Corps trainees and volunteers and to assist them in cultural and practical understanding in order to enhance their experience in Thailand. That was Dr. Surin. So now I'm saying we are honored today to congratulate Dr. Surin Pitsuwan for his long life commitment to service, and we are proud to have him receive this award. Yakshakap Kunmak, Dr. Surin Radijai Mak Hai Kunmat Tini Wani Naka. This is the Harris Wofford Global Citizenship Award. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Dr. Surin.
Well, thank you very, very much, David and Jeannie and Sarah. I feel like I'm accepting a nomination for presidential ticket here. Well, Mr. Glenn Blumhorst, President, National Peace Corps Association, Tony Batre, Chair of the Board of Directors, National Peace Corps Association, Ms. Carrie Hessler Radelet, the new Peace Corps Executive Director, congratulations. Mr. David Wofford, Chair of Global Citizen Award Selection Committee. You sound much friendlier than when you interviewed me on the phone. I was sitting in my room at Oxford University in the cold, but David was even colder. I thought I would never make it. Ginny Kirkwood, my mom, former country director of Peace Corps Thailand, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me an immense pleasure and a distinct honor to appear before you all this afternoon at this very, very special gathering of the returned Peace Corps volunteers of over half a century, and to be bestowed the 2014 Harris Wofford Global Citizen Award. I'm standing before you with both a sense of pride and also a sense of humility. Proud because it is an honor that recognizes not only myself, but millions of other so-called the Peace Corps products all around the world whose lives have been enriched and influenced by their association with all of you during your time of noble services in those countries. Humble because I'm sure there are many among those millions out there who probably equally, if not more, deserve this distinguished award also. I'm grateful to Dr. Kevin Quigley, the country director of Peace Corps Thailand now, and the Peace Corps volunteers in Thailand last year. And one of them is Sarah Linko, who together nominated me to the select committee chaired by David Wofford. Mine is probably a typical life of humble beginning in an isolated village in the middle of the rubber plantation, far away from everything, without a paved road, without running water, without electricity, without any amenities considered to be essential of a decent life under the current Millennium Development Goals. I had no shoes to wear until I was 11. I had to ride a bicycle up and down the hills, day in and day out, for 8 years, on a road that would disappear in the monsoon season. I would be soaking wet in a thunderstorm and covered with red dust in the dry season. The big break came in 1965-67 with two angels of hope in the form of the Peace Corps volunteers. David and Phyllis Johnston, you've heard the story, were sent to my provincial boy and girl schools. David taught English and math, and Phyllis helped the girls to speak English and social studies. I was lucky enough to have caught their caring hearts and their searching eyes. They must have seen in me a future recipient of the Harris Wofford Global Citizen. They took me into their tutorship and grilled me with the use of the English language. Before that, there was a British overseas volunteer man who taught me to say either or neither. David and Phyllis came and said, Surin, no, either or neither. I was confused along the way to the point where David and Phyllis decided that I would need 1 full year in somewhere, someplace in the United States to polish up my English to prepare for the Harris Wofford Award. You know, I'll tell you a story, and I hope I won't offend anybody. You are old enough not to be offended. Kennedy said, the Peace Corps volunteers are men and women who will be expected to work and live alongside the nationals of the country in which they are stationed, doing the same work, eating the same food, talking the same language. Well, sometime in the late 60s, the Thai government decided to promote dairy farming. But we had only cows, we did not have a bull. And one was ordered from Wisconsin. And when the bull landed, was taken to this cooperative in Ratchaburi province, south of Bangkok, the bull decided just to lie down, not to do the work. AID agricultural expert went there, it didn't work. Thai agricultural expert went there, it didn't work. It took a Peace Corps volunteer to walk to the bull, whisper into the ear. The bull looked up and stood up, ready to work. And the governor and the extension officer, Minister of Agriculture asked that Peace Corps volunteer, what magic did you whisper into the, magic words did you whisper into the ears of the bull? The Peace Corps volunteer said, I just told him that Kennedy said we got to be here to work. And what did the bull whisper back to you? The bull said he misunderstood. He thought he was there only on advisory capacity. So Peace Corps volunteers were those who roll up their sleeves and got to do the dirty work. 220,000 of you have done that job and have brought back the world to your own society. And America, yourselves have been enriched by that experience out there in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are, more than a half century after John Kennedy conceived of the idea of the Peace Corps on the steps of the Michigan Union in the early morning hours of the 14th of October 1960, the idea he called the idea of greater purpose. He said, to bear the burden of the twilight struggle against the common enemies of man, tyranny, poverty, and diseases. And disease, he said, 220,000 Peace Corps volunteers later, celebrating that idea of greater purpose. The world has changed, but the struggle is still on. But that twilight struggle has been joined by many individuals whose lives you have made the difference. In my case, you have snatched me from the tyrannical jaws of poverty and hopelessness. Many professionals distinguished in their own fields, be it doctors, engineers, lawyers, civic leaders, teachers, and politicians, are now your comrades in arms who are also rejoicing in hope, patience in tribulation, in their efforts to help their own communities and countries in the same spirit as the Peace Corps volunteers have been doing in the past 5 decades. So in my view, the most important, valuable gift that the Peace Corps program has given to the world is far more significant than the sum of individuals like myself, catapulted from the hilltops and the deep valleys of remote corners of the globe. Far more significant is the Peace Corps spirit of volunteerism that has sprung up in many communities and many countries around the world. You all have planted that very unique American value observed by Alexis de Tocqueville during Andrew Jackson's America. This is the state of Andrew Jackson. The civil religion, he called it with admiration. In my part of the world and in other regions, the emergence of civil society, inspired by a similar civil religion, observed by de Tocqueville, to help their own communities and countries, in a large part, a legacy of all of you, Peace Corps volunteers of America. Under my watch, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, adopted a vision that calls for the creation of a community of caring and sharing societies among 10 member states in Southeast Asia. In Africa, in Latin America, and Central Asia, similar phenomena are occurring. This is the most fitting reciprocation that the world is celebrating now in return for the noble services and sacrifices that you all have made. We celebrate your gift to us by emulating your spirit of volunteerism to manage other challenges facing our global community today. And next year, the United Nations is planning the first World Summit of Civil Society for post-2015 development goals in Istanbul, Turkey, Gene. The world is catching up with the values, with the inspiration, with the spirit of volunteerism that 220,000 of you have brought to them and share with them. Be proud in that success. Ladies and gentlemen, the Harris Wofford Global Citizen Award recognizes outstanding global leaders who grew up and continue to live in a country where Peace Corps volunteers served and whose life was influenced by the Peace Corps. Well, I am one such individual among hundreds of thousands more out there whose lives have been touched, inspired, and transformed for the betterment of our global community. I humbly accept the 2014 Harris Wofford Global Citizen Award on behalf of those men and women who are lucky enough to have their own David and Phyllis, to point the way and to paint a better future for them. I thank my angels of hope, David and Phyllis Johnston, and I owe much to the Peace Corps program. Please take pride in whatever valuable accomplishments I have made, for they are, in large part, inspired by all of you. Thank you very, very much.